what if I told you that the biggest football upset maybe of this whole century didn't happen in a final? You know, the world watching, waiting for a trophy lift. What if it happened like on a Tuesday morning? Group stage, Qatar. When almost nobody was really focused on, well, the underdogs. We're talking about something so improbable, so utterly shocking, it kind of rewrote the rules, you know?
Okay.
Shook up everything we thought we knew about football's pecking order. Today, we're doing a deep dive into that exact moment, that incredible clash between Saudi Arabia and Argentina, 2022 World Cup. November 22nd, to be precise. Our mission here, really, is to unpack how this almost unbelievable thing happened, layer by layer. Look at the immediate shockwaves it sent out, and maybe more importantly, figure out its lasting impact, not just for football, but, well, as a story about beating the odds. Okay, so to really get how huge this was, we absolutely have to set the stage. Let's start with the giants in this story. Argentina. Now try and put yourself back there. Late 2022. Argentina wasn't just, a decent team heading to the World Cup. They were a juggernaut. They landed in Qatar on this unbelievable 36-match unbeaten run. 36 games. Without a single loss. Just let that sink in for a second. That's over 3 years of just dominating. It wasn't just impressive, it spoke volumes about their consistency, their tactics, this feeling they had, this invincibility. They'd just taken apart Italy, the European champions, 3-0 in the Finalissima.
Yeah, that Finalissima win was huge. It showed they weren't just kings of South America. They could beat anyone, anywhere. And that run, 36 games, it built incredible momentum. You could just feel it. They weren't just not losing. They were playing fantastic football, often just tearing teams apart. And crucially, they just won the Copa America. Ah, the Copa America, yeah. That victory was massive psychologically. Yeah. Especially for Messi, right? For years, the story was always about him nearly getting there with Argentina, the heartbreak. But winning that major trophy, it lifted this huge weight. You could see it. The relief, the belief they had in themselves as a group, it was palpable. They weren't just one of the favorites of the World Cup, they were arguably the favorite. Or, top two of Brazil. Destined.
And the squad. Wow, I mean, it wasn't just good, it was stacked. Absolutely dripping with global stars, names everyone knew, obviously. Lionel Messi, probably the greatest ever, playing maybe the best football of his life. But he wasn't alone, not by a long shot. Angel Di Maria's skill experience always pops up with big goals. Lautaro Martinez banging them in for Inter and Argentina.
And a midfield engine room, too. Paredes, DePaul controlling things. And then Emi Martinez in goal. Huge personality, great shot stop.
Exactly. It wasn't just talent. It was a team, a unit, a well-oiled machine almost. They looked unstoppable. They had the history, the pedigree, the pressure of a nation, the world's expectation, really, that this was finally their year.
That expectation was everywhere. Okay, now let's flip the coin.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Saudi Arabia. They came into the tournament ranked 51st in the world. Just think about that difference. Argentina, top 3. Saudi Arabia, 51st. That's not a gap. It's a chasm. 48 places.
Huge difference.
Huge. And they didn't have a Messi, right? No single global superstar everyone's watching. They didn't have this big World Cup history, deep runs, famous wins everyone remembers. By every normal measure, every statistic, they were the clear, absolute underdogs. Honestly, in a lot of the pre-tournament chat, they were almost, an afterthought, expected to make up the numbers.
Yeah, totally. The view was, they'd try hard, maybe score a goal, but they weren't going to trouble Argentina. Not really. But our sources for this deep dive, they point to something else. Something deeper than just rankings or star players. They talk about pure belief, determination, and this dream that no one else dared to believe. That sounds a bit like a cliche, maybe, but it seems like it was real. Foundational, even, for what happened next. Their coach, Hervé Renard, French guy, right? Known for getting results with underdogs. Won the African Cup with Zambia, Ivory Coast, unlikely wins.
That's right. Renard had that reputation.
Yeah.
And apparently, he'd really hammered home this belief in the squad. This idea that the impossible wasn't actually impossible. And don't forget, they qualified well. They topped their Asian group, which isn't easy. That shows organization, confidence building already.
So, okay, belief is one thing, but the reality...
The reality was the odds were massively stacked. I mean, every pundit, every betting company, everyone's saying Argentina comfortably. Probably 3-4-0, which brings up that big question. How on earth does a team bridge that kind of gap? It's not just about talent or tactics. It's experience, history, individual brilliance. How do you overcome all that? It suggests something. Well, something beyond just stats, doesn't it? Something about spirit, mentality, the collective. The sheer unlikelihood, statistically, is what makes this result just legendary. An all-timer upset. They didn't just show up hoping. They came with a plan, a defiant one.
And it was absolutely astonishing. Okay, let's get into it. The match itself. How did this game, the one everyone thought was already decided, start to go completely off script? It kicked off pretty much exactly as predicted, didn't it, these first few minutes?
Textbook, yeah.
Argentina looked calm, confident, like they owned the place, took control straight away, moved the ball nicely, applied pressure. It felt a bit like a training game, honestly. Patiently looking for the opening. The crowd in Lusail Stadium, mostly Argentinian fans, buzzing but sort of relaxed, like, it's coming. Just a matter of time.
Absolutely. Those opening moments just confirmed everything people thought beforehand. Argentina looked slick, comfortable, dominant. Saudi Arabia were pinned back. It really did feel less like a proper World Cup contest, and more like, a warm-up for the bigger games later on. Argentina just camped in their half.
And then, bang, 10 minutes in, the moment that seemed to seal the deal. Penalty to Argentina, VAR check, maybe a little soft, but given. And who steps up? Messi, of course. Cool as you like. Just rolls it in. 1-0 Argentina. It felt almost too easy, too predictable. Like fate just ticking a box.
Yeah, 1-0 Messi, 10 minutes.
And the reaction to that goal, our research shows, it was pretty much universal. Fans everywhere, commentators basically thought, right, that's that then.
Yeah.
Done and dusted. Maybe a warm-up, yeah. You could almost feel this collective sigh like, okay, Argentina are going to cruise this, maybe score a few more. Just the first easy step on their way to the final. The script felt locked in.
That early goal, especially from Messi, it just cemented that feeling. It set the baseline for everyone watching. Huge gulf in class, business as usual, comfortable Argentina win. And maybe that feeling of inevitability was actually Argentina's biggest problem. They've been winning for so long, maybe just a tiny bit of complacency crept in. Hard to say, but possible.
Okay, let's unpack this. 1-0 Argentina, 10 minutes in, everyone's thinking, classic. But Saudi Arabia clearly had other plans, didn't they? Because even after going down, they didn't just fold. They didn't look like underdogs just waiting for it to be over. No, they pressed. They fought back. This wasn't damage limitation. It felt like an active, aggressive, and honestly pretty high-risk response.
Yeah.
What does that tell us, even at that point?
It tells us everything about their mindset, and crucially, about Renard's tactics. Most teams go 1-0 down to Messi that early. They crumble, or at least they drop deep, try and keep the score respectable.
Just park the bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Saudi Arabia did the opposite. That decision to push up, play a high defensive line, press Argentina hard in midfield, fight for every ball that had to come from Renard.
Yeah.
And the players bought into it completely. It showed they weren't just there to take part. They wanted to compete, to disrupt, to make a statement. They actively tried to stop Argentina playing comfortably, even though that high line is risky against pace. That defiance, instead of just accepting it, was maybe the first real sign that something unusual might be happening. It was a brave strategy. All or nothing, almost.
And it's wild because that high line, that huge gamble, it actually sort of worked in the first half, even though they were losing. Argentina had, 3 goals disallowed for offside?
Yeah, 3. All caught by that high line, stepping up together. Messi passes, Lautaro runs.
Yeah.
But caught offside. By inches sometimes.
Incredible discipline.
Remarkable discipline and understanding from the defenders against that kind of speed and quality. They were playing with a fire, absolutely, but they weren't getting totally scorched.
And then halftime. 1-0 Argentina. Still felt like they were in control, but Saudi Arabia had shown something, That fight, those offside traps. But the second half, minutes after the restart. Wow. That's when the seismic shift, as we called it, really happened. Everything changed just 3 minutes into the second half. 48th minute, Salah Al-Shehri burst through.
Right.
And it wasn't a lucky break. It was a good run, timed well. Argentina's defense just switched off for a second maybe. He shrugged off Romero, kept his cool left foot, slotted it past Martinez. 1-1.
Ooh.
The mix of noise. Saudi fans going wild. Argentine fans just stunned silence. The shock was instant. You could feel it everywhere.
That goal was like an electric shock through the whole tournament. Not just a goal, it was the sound of that pre-written script being ripped up. The first proper crack in Argentina's armor. For Argentina, it was like, hang on, this isn't supposed to happen. They hadn't felt that vulnerability for 36 games. For Saudi Arabia, it was proof. Proof their belief wasn't just talk, proof their plan was working. The shock showed just how much everyone expected an easy Argentina win. This felt wrong somehow.
Totally wrong, yeah. The stadium was just buzzing with disbelief, but nobody, absolutely nobody had time to even process it. Because 5 minutes later, 53rd minute, Salem Al-Dosari, a name now burned into football history. He produced Well, it was just magic, pure magic.
Unbelievable goal.
Picked it up on the edge of the box, danced past 2 defenders, amazing close control, made half a yard of space, and then just curled it. Unstoppable, top corner.
Wow.
It wasn't luck, it wasn't a deflection, it was world class. A goal Messi would have been proud of.
And the roar then from the Saudi fans.
Oh.
Deafening. Saudi Arabia 2, Argentina 1. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these weren't just goals. They were body blows. Psychological punches that just changed the whole story of the World Cup, right there and then. Al-Dasari's goal especially, there was pure audacity. It wasn't just drawing level. It was saying, we're not just trying to survive here, we're trying to win against Argentina. It brings up that question again. What does it take for an underdog to not just score, but to grab the momentum like that against a giant?
Yeah, what does it take?
Well, you need the skill, obviously, like Al-Dasari showed, but also immense courage to even try that shot in that moment, and that collective belief that, yeah, the impossible can happen. That second goal, so soon after the first, just captured that shift and turned a potential shock into a full-blown crisis for Argentina.
And the reaction was surreal, utter chaos, but weirdly quiet afterwards. You saw the Argentine fans, normally so loud, just silent, faces showing pure disbelief, maybe even horror. Then you looked at the screens, TVs around the world, same reaction everywhere. Global shock. It felt like the mighty had actually fallen, like the rules didn't apply anymore. Anything could happen now. The tension was unbelievable. So, okay. New reality. Saudi Arabia ranked 51st, leading 2-1 against the mighty Argentina, who basically never lose. And what comes next is maybe even more impressive than the goals. Saudi Arabia's defense, holding the line, an incredible stand. Argentina obviously didn't just roll over, not a team like that. They threw the kitchen sink at them, didn't they? Absolutely. Tried everything. Scaloni makes subs straight away. Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, more attackers on. Trying to find a way through. They just attacked and attacked, wave after wave. Pure desperation, you could see it. Disbelief mixed with this fierce pride, wanting to get back what they felt was theirs. Messi dropping deep, trying to make things happen, spraying passes, but Saudi Arabia just seemed to have an answer every time.
It showed Argentina's character, too, that they didn't just collapse and shock. They ranked it up. They knew what a loss meant, even this early. So, yeah, they laid siege to the Saudi goal for, 35, 40 minutes? Pushing players forward, taking risks, corner after corner, free kick after free kick. But that Saudi wall, it just wouldn't break.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Saudi Arabia isn't just scoring, they're defending against one of the best attacks on the planet. They're shutting down Messi and company. How? We know they held firm. Sounds easy, but against that level of talent, almost impossible. We know they had that high defensive line, but how did they keep that incredible defensive organization going, make those desperate tackles? And the world-class goalkeeping, that's more than luck, surely.
Oh, it's way beyond luck. It's a masterclass, really, in collective will and tactical discipline, shutting down Messi, Di Maria, Lautaro. You're talking about neutralizing some of the most creative, lethal attackers in the game. It wasn't just 1 or 2 good blocks. It was sustained, relentless effort from everyone for almost an hour under crushing pressure. That incredible defensive organization.
Yeah.
That screams meticulous planning and drilling by Renard. Every player knew exactly where to be, what to do.
The high line again.
They stuck with that incredibly risky high line, executing the offside trap again and again. 9 offsides against Argentina in total, I think.
Yeah.
Including those 3 disallowed goals. That takes immense bravery and trust in each other against fast forwards.
Yeah, huge risk.
And the desperate tackles. That's just pure commitment, putting bodies on the line. Every block, every interception, especially near their own box, you could feel the determination. They were sending a message. You shall not pass.
And the keeper.
Crucial. Mohamed Alouais. He was immense. Made several absolutely vital saves. Came out punching crosses, commanding his area. Your keeper in those moments has to be huge. Make saves he shouldn't. And he did. He gave the defenders even more belief. So it's that mix. Tactics, discipline, sheer willpower, and moments of individual brilliance like the saves.
Yeah.
It let them soak up all that pressure. It's a classic example of a team playing way above the sum of its parts. United by purpose. Refusing to bend.
And those minutes just
I limped.
crawled by. Felt like forever. Argentina throwing everything forward. Shots, crosses, flicks, nothing worked. That Saudi defense with Alouais behind them just absorbed it all, stood firm, and then finally.
The sound, nobody really expected, except maybe the Saudi team themselves. The final whistle.
History made. Simple as that. The whistle blows, and the impossible has happened. Saudi Arabia have beaten Argentina. Let that sink in again. But here's the kicker. The detail that makes this utterly legendary, almost mythical. The team that would eventually lift the World Cup trophy. The eventual champions. Their only defeat in the entire tournament came right here, beaten by the team nobody gave a chance.
That's the crucial point, isn't it? That elevates it beyond just a massive shock. It becomes this pivotal, almost fated moment in football history. For Argentina, it was their rock bottom, the wake-up call that forced them to completely reset. Painful, but maybe necessary for what came later. For Saudi Arabia, it wasn't just a win, it was the win, the moment they stunned the world.
And the impact off the pitch, he called it a cultural earthquake. Just unbelievable scenes across the Arab world. Celebrations weren't just big, they were ecstatic. You saw the videos, right? Saudi fans pouring onto the streets, Doha, Riyadh, everywhere. Pure joy, national pride, dancing, singing, waving flags, hugging strangers. It was incredible.
Yeah, amazing outpouring.
And the government even declared a public holiday the next day. That shows how much it meant. It wasn't just about football. It was about identity, belief, changing perception.
Exactly. The cultural impact was huge and lasting. Our analysis shows the world suddenly stopped sort of, well, maybe not mocking, but underestimating Gulf football and started respecting it. It challenged stereotypes, showed that talent, hard work, belief can come from anywhere, beat anyone. It was an incredibly powerful underdog story that resonated everywhere, way beyond football. A win for Saudi Arabia, yes, but also for underdogs everywhere.
But then there's Argentina, the team that just suffered this, well, humiliating defeat. How did they react? It was a rude awakening, wasn't it? A shock to the system after that incredible unbeaten run. Feeling invincible, then crashing down against the team everyone dismissed. But what our deep dive shows is they didn't just crumble, they didn't point fingers, they went back to the drawing board, they regrouped. This wasn't the end for them. It was this brutal, painful, but maybe the essential start of their real World Cup journey. And the redemption part is just incredible. They went on to win every single game, every one, all the way to lifting the trophy. So what does it all mean for Argentina? That loss, it wasn't just a blip. It somehow became this strange catalyst, didn't it? For ultimate glory. They faced that adversity, regrouped under massive pressure, dealt with the criticism, and then just found this unstoppable grit. It's like the defeat burned away any complacency and lit this fire under them.
That's exactly it. The dual narrative is fascinating. For Saudi Arabia, the absolute peak, their historic moment, celebrated forever. For Argentina, profound adversity, a public humbling that could have destroyed their campaign. But often in sport, and in life too, right? Those moments of intense pressure, of failure, they can forge champions. It forced Argentina to look hard at themselves, maybe find an even deeper unity, a stronger resolve. It stopped being about the streak and became about resilience, about bouncing back. And the fact that the only team to beat the world champions was Saudi Arabia, it just adds this unique, almost mystical layer to both stories. It shows how failure, if you face it right, can be the foundation for something incredible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, what are the big takeaways? The lessons from this absolutely unforgettable game? It feels like more than just football?
Definitely. I think the biggest lesson is about football itself. Its beautiful unpredictability. This match just screams. Football isn't decided by star names or money or history alone. It's about belief. It's about those 90 minutes where genuinely anything can happen, where spirit and strategy and sheer will can just defy logic. This game tore up the script. Favorites are just favorites, not winners guaranteed.
Absolutely. It smashed that illusion that a team's worth is just about the names on the back of the shirts or their FIFA ranking. Instead, it showed the power, the almost supernatural power of belief, determination. It teaches, I think, that history isn't only written by the famous ones, the ones with the biggest budgets. History is written by the bold, by those who dare to dream when nobody else does, who refuse to be scared. Saudi Arabia. They weren't the famous team that day, but they were incredibly, undeniably bold. And they wrote themselves into history.
Which leads to that universal message, doesn't it? The takeaway for everyone listening, whether you love football or not, Saudi Arabia versus Argentina isn't just a massive World Cup upset. It's a timeless reminder to every small nation, every underdog team, every overlooked person facing a huge challenge. On the right day, with the right mindset, even giants can fall. This match is a story that goes way beyond sport. It applies anywhere expectations are low, but the will to succeed is sky high. It's about collective effort, bravery, discipline, and just refusing to accept the odds, believing when no one else does. It's testament to the human spirit, really.
What an incredible story. We've gone deep into Saudi Arabia's stunner against Argentina. From Argentina looking unbeatable, Messi scoring early, to Saudi Arabia's incredible spirit, those two amazing goals. and that defensive masterclass. We've seen the cultural shockwaves, the celebrations, and how, weirdly, it became the spark for Argentina's own World Cup win. It just reminds you, doesn't it? Sports unpredictability, the power of belief. So maybe something to think about this week as you face your own challenges. What giants are you facing? The things that seem impossible. What can you take from those green falcons of Saudi Arabia? Maybe the story tells us success isn't always straightforward. Sometimes the biggest wins come from the most unexpected places, sparked when nobody gives you a chance. Sometimes you just have to be bold. Until next time, keep diving deep.